Okay. Gosh.
I'm so sorry. This is Ethan's first show.
No, it's
this
the
is
same.
Ethan's first time doing the after show.
First time doing the after show. I think it's the same thing I did last week.
Brian Sands gave you a very cheeky, Ethan, turn on the audio again.
I'm going to yeah. I have no excuse. I think of myself as like, I love technology. I'm nailing it. I'm so good at it. And then something like this happens where I literally was just on the wrong camera angle. I could tell you what happened, but it would bore all of you to death.
I'm already bored.
Don't take away my toy that I was playing with. Oh, Kim's excitement level is down to minimum. Welcome, everyone. We had a couple new Patreon supporters tonight, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for jumping on. Basically, how this works is after every live show, we do this after show for 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes longer, with our guests. So tonight, obviously, we didn't have a live guest, but you get to go back through all the archives and check out some of the after shows there and every future after show as well. So tonight, basically, we'll answer more questions. If anyone has any more questions or stories to share, we'll stay on as long as it takes to get through all that stuff. Just so you know, if this is your first time watching the after show, on the Patreon page, you can get to the live chat room by either clicking on this video up here or in the description on this post. Go to the after show link and click over, and it'll take you to the YouTube page, and that's where the live chat room is. So Patreon does not embed the live chat room.
Marie Cloud in the chat room says, Ethan, if she takes your toy, take her Canadian pen.
They're going to say, take her Canadian like citizenship or something. And be like, that is intense. Her Canadian pen. Oh, that's right.
I took it back, you guys. Took it back. We were talking about it in the Patreon crew live.
But I did find a better pen.
Yeah, you know where it is, though?
In your purse.
Yes, exactly.
You took my pen. On Friday, I had a meeting and I was using this pen. And as I was using it, I was like, oh my God, this is the best pen ever. Where did you get it? She's like, well, actually, you can have that one. And I was like, yes. I forget. I think it was like a Bic.
It's not a fancy pen, but it just happens to write nice.
Have you tried it?
No.
It's pretty
But
great.
I saw your reaction to it. And
it was immediate.
Immediately stashed it in my purse.
Well, yeah, it was an immediate reaction to a pen, which rarely happens. How often do you write with a pen and go, whoa?
All the time.
Life change.
When you get a good pen, it's good.
Yeah, so I took it. She gave it to me. I technically stole it.
Yeah, the woman at the meeting actually gave you a pen and then also ripped the end of the box off to give to you so you knew what to buy.
And I was like, that is a good staff member because she like knew this is the product description. Rip it off the box, put it on the pen. She's like, take it. Go buy 1,000 of
them. Question from Nathaniel. Nathaniel says, if time, money, or logistics are of no concern, what stories would you like to tell and why?
Great question.
That is a great question.
There's a project I'm working on now.
Can't talk about it.
I won't, but it is one of those that is...
It fits into the category that you're talking about.
It fits into that category that you're talking about. Because it is much bigger than trail running. It is much bigger than that. And it has the potential to be a very overwhelming project. Because there are going to be lots of elements of travel and lots of budget and all these crazy things that could be involved with it. But it is like really exciting. So part of me is like crossing my fingers, hoping that it comes to fruition. You will all be the first to know about this. I'm just not legally allowed to talk about it yet.
Right.
As we get to the stages where that can happen, you will all be privy to the idea, the story, how it's going to unfold, maybe even be a part of it, help out. You know, it's going to be awesome. We're just not even at that stage yet. So I can't actually talk about it yet. And that sucks to have to say that. But other things, like if budget wasn't a concern, like I would love to go follow Killian, right? Like go do a huge mountain exploration thing with Killian and bring in helicopters and do all these crazy things. And I think trail running movies I think the stories are being told fine. I think there's this element that is lacking, which is budget. I think there are some stories that can be told with a bit more polish and whimsy that just require a bit more budget. I just don't think the trail running brands have budgets to throw at big motion pictures and stuff like that. You look at movies like Free Solo, which won an Oscar, had a big budget behind it, but has that sort of real low production quality behind it, right? Like you're not watching it going, wow, this is a $5 million movie. you're looking at it going, yeah, this is probably a couple $100,000 movie, but the big brands behind it made sure that it just looked great, sounded great, was filmed and edited great, and that sort of story is missing from Bell Running. So I'd love to do something along big story with a budget and actually see what we could do.
I also think it'd be really fun to like travel places, like places that we would like to travel, like
Hmm.
Japan and New Zealand, and do, I don't know, talk about the culture there, and maybe follow some local athletes. Kind
Hmm.
of like similar stuff that we would do here with
But
athletes,
international,
but international. I think it would really really fun with like the
yeah.
twist of like getting into the culture of that region.
Hmm.
Not just being like, hey, we're Americans.
Yeah,
Like be
something
like,
aside from like a hey, like a
look
Ginger
at me
Bits,
here.
yeah, Ginger
Yeah.
Bits
Like
episode,
I think doing something, I don't know. I think there's
special.
like a lot of stories to be told everywhere. That,
Yeah, we get we get lots of emails from people who want to tell their story on our show, and a lot of the times it feels very inorganic and it feels very like I don't know. We get like requests from PR agencies like, "Hey, we have this client who did this incredible thing. You should get him on your show." And it's like they're trying to sell a book, aren't they? Or they're like trying to do they want money, you know? It's kind of insincere. But there's so many stories that we get all the time or that we hear all the time that are untold stories of people they'll like never get their story told. And those are the ones that I'm really drawn to. And like Kim said, like being able to travel to a place like Japan and tell some of the stories of runners in Japan or New Zealand would be amazing. Because one, we've always wanted to go to those destinations, learn more about the people, the culture there, but also tell some of the stories that come from those places. It'd be really
yeah.
great, especially for the Western audience to be able to see these stories.
Yeah, like I feel like, yeah, stuff that we don't get to see
Hmm.
regularly, but I think there's value in sharing
Yeah. Wandering Fever,
that.
Dean Leslie, he's a fantastic filmmaker, does a lot with Solomon Running. He's kind of one of those few storytellers that is telling these bigger stories with budgets. He's traveling the world and kind of finding those. Of course, it's very Solomon branded, but Solomon does a great job of saying, listen, we'll put our logo at the front and we'll let you just kind of have creative control. And it's cool because you can see Dean Leslie's work and you can pick it out of a crowd because it is next level. It's filmed fantastically, edited fantastically, and that's because they're an ad agency doing big production stuff um, in a really beautiful way and telling really beautiful stories. Not from a brand perspective, but from like a storytelling. That's
Yeah,
why his stuff is. I still think it's some of the best out there
totally.
in our realm.
Josh says, "Are you guys thinking that Tiger Claw will be an annual event?"
We hope so. I talked to one of the permitting guys that we've been dealing with today on the phone, and he hinted at we had an idea for something we wanted to do this year, and he was like, "Well, if it doesn't work this year, you could always do it the next year. If you're planning on doing it the next year." And I was like, "Oh, the fact that he said that is good. We just have to nail it." So our goal right now is nail this year, learn from mistakes that happen, and apply them for the next year. We would really love to make this an annual thing. We picked this date May 4th because it conflicts with one trail race, really, Miwok, which is unfortunate. I really wanted to race Miwok. Um, but it's a time of the year that doesn't conflict with GRGR, and it's kind of an early season race, so people aren't looking to do huge 100 milers and stuff. That good training run for some of those summer hundreds. So it's kind of perfect for us if we can continue to do it in the May, like late April, May sort of corridor. So I would love to do this every year, and hopefully it gets easier. I think I say that, and every race director is like, "Yeah, it doesn't."
I think it will slightly.
I guess the logistics we're working out now
Like
will be
we're
dialed in,
laying the
the groundwork.
groundwork. Yeah, exactly. Marie Claude says, "Will you do a special Monday live show after Tiger Claw with so many GR crew in the area? It would be nice to do the show with a live audience."
Yeah, we're toying with. I don't know how many are going to be staying through Monday. We're toying with the idea of possibly doing the show on Sunday. Our we're not even at that point yet. Let's nail the race, but I think
Yeah.
those couple weeks before the race, we'll figure out a destination. Maybe we can pick, a running store or a brewery where we could do the live show and have participants of the event and GR crew, local and traveling, to be here that can participate. Again, I know a lot of people are traveling in on Friday and then traveling out on Sunday, so that's kind of the downside is we can't do a GR live Saturday night. We have a
And
party.
yeah, and also we're gonna have like It's gonna be a very busy weekend
It'll be a very
for
busy weekend.
for like all of our crew
Yeah.
that's involved.
Yeah.
Just a comment from Travis in the chat room. Travis says, just became a Patreon supporter last week. This is a very special show to get to see as the first show I've really managed to catch live.
Cool.
You're all really a great group of people.
Awesome, Travis. Well, one, thank you for joining up, and two, welcome. Welcome to the fam. Really, really appreciate the support on Patreon. We love to have you. And I'm glad that this is the first one you got to see too. Like the viewer mail episodes are, again, Kim and mine's favorite. We get to share cool stories. It doesn't have to be like a here's my life story. You know, it can always be, oh, I ran a 5K last week and I failed, but it was really fun. You know, like it could be as simple as that. It could be a success story or something you're going through. It could just be a question. You know, the goal with the viewer mail is to go through viewer mail. We did that today. Great.
My thing just keeps.
Is it not refreshing?
It's bouncing around.
Marie Claude says, I vote for a brewery so that the crew could hang out after the show. Well, yeah, we've done live shows at Seven Hills Running, which is here in Seattle, and they just stay open. Like they, Phil and the shop, they do the live show at whatever time we want to do it, and then they just stay open with the people that are there, like order pizza, get beer, and that sort of thing. It's low key, but it's super fun. So we'll figure that out. We definitely want to do something like that. We have the weekend planning underway. There will be a lot of, I feel like this week and next week are going to be the week of big updates. So just stay tuned, both on the volunteer side and if you're participating on that side too. Because I think we'll find out about Friday stuff and all that within the next 14 days.
Yeah. Another question from Nathaniel from the main show. There's a quick non-viewer mail related question for Ethan or Kim.
Yep.
Having just watched, sorry, I'm deteriorating.
Okay, here.
Having just watched your recent cloud review, I wonder what shoes stand out to you the most: good, bad, unique, or cherished?
I guess how so? Because every shoe is different. There isn't a shoe that I'm like, oh my god, this is the best shoe I've ever run in.
You're just saying, like, do any stand out: good, bad, unique, or cherished? Like, oh, that was
so I mean,
terrible, and like, why did I even ever put it on my foot? Which I feel like we have a few of those in our house right now.
Yeah, we have a few right now.
Like, for me, like my cherished shoe, they don't make them anymore.
Why don't you tell him who it was? Who took that shoe away from you?
Gus.
No, what's the shoe?
Pearl Izumi.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I wouldn't even say it's just a shoe. I ran in 2 or 3 of their road shoes. I ran in 2 of their trail shoes. I loved those shoes. Those are like my cherished shoes. I hoarded them.
Yeah.
I ran those things into the ground before I got rid of them.
I never understood why they got rid of them. Those are one of those shoes when they had a whole slew of versions too, like a stiffer version, a more cushioned version, a more treaded version,
a racing flat
version. They did it right. Like they entered the trail running market and road running market like correctly. They gave you various options depending on your needs, but it only lasted a couple years, and then they just were like, we're not doing them anymore. No more shoes, and it like pissed people off. And they don't even make running shorts anymore. They do triathlon stuff, but that's it. And those running shorts were the best running shorts I ever had. So I'm also with you. I miss those shoes.
It says N2 Trail was great. That was my
Trail.
My jam.
Yeah, N2 Trail. I look back at the Hoka Clifton 1. I have the re-release. I don't think it's the same as the first version. I'm going to say that here on Patreon Crew live. I don't know if I'll say this in the actual review because I need to get some science data to back that up. The original Clifton was a great shoe for me. The original Challenger was a great shoe for me. I think the Hoka Waka was a great shoe for me. A little bit narrow, still super great. I am currently running a lot in the Speedgoat 3s. I think it's a fantastic update to an already really good shoe. I thought the Speedgoat 1 was awful. Second one was better. The third one is kind of the best of it, but still pretty narrow. I think the early Kinvaras were fucking great. I thought they deteriorated too prematurely, but the cushioning was spot on. Great road running shoe. Ran many marathons in those. But they don't make those anymore the same. So that's the problem. It's like every shoe that I cherish or that I've had a love affair with or anything like that is gone,
That sounds
or
so sad
it does,
and
or
final.
changed. It is. I mean, there's like Ultra Runner podcast. Eric has this infatuation with Brooks
Oh yeah. It's
um
like green
Green
something.
Silence. And I've run of the Green Silence once, and I remember like, whoa, this is like an amazing shoe. I never owned a pair, but they discontinued them, and to this day, there are people who were like, bring back the Green Silence. Brooks, and Brooks is like, oh, we're not gonna do it. It's like, why? Just re-release, like, just do a round. It's not like you don't have the mold still, or see if you can sell 100 pairs because it's gonna do better than some of the other road shoes that you're cranking out. Local company.
Mm. Deb says, question for me. I know you got off Strava and I keep debating if I should be on or off Strava. What are your thoughts? So I did go off Strava for a number of months and my coach changed my training uh, schedule. So he took away numbers from me and only gave me time. So I'm actually kind of back on Strava, and it's mostly just so I can keep track of my numbers for myself. But the last few months has been able to kind of like rehab me into having a healthier relationship with those numbers. And that's the only reason why I felt like I was like, okay, I can start connecting to Strava again. But I don't like scroll on Strava anymore.
Yeah.
So I have rules for myself. I like to see it for the data for my own self, and now I feel like I have a healthier relationship with my numbers. Is this making any sense? I feel like I'm talking myself around in cold meds in my head right now.
You're absolutely right.
But
everyone makes sense.
So yes, I did step away from Strava for a number of months. My coach kind of changed my training plan, helped me have be healthy as far as not putting pressure on myself or putting those comparisons in my mind. Felt like I was a good place to kind of just start to upload without having those scrolling tendencies.
I mean, I think there's something to be said about all social media. We find ourselves
Yes.
constantly catching each other scrolling on Instagram or scrolling on Twitter. And I mean, listen, we're not preaching to the choir here. You guys are all fully aware of of your own and our own addictions to whether it's social media or apps or whatever. If you've managed to pull yourself out of that downward spiral, I commend you. Strava is, to that same degree, a place where it is really easy to compare yourself to others. Instagram, you see other people's lives, you see pictures of this beautiful thing they're doing, and you that fear of missing out, and also that sort of like innate jealousy that's a part of it, and that's also part of the addiction of it. Strava's the same way in that,
except it gives you like cold hard numbers to compare.
Exactly. You're looking at data. You're looking at proven, like, oh, this person really did run 20 miles. It's not a photo of their dinner and maybe their kitchen's a fucking mess or something, right?
Right.
It's like they ran 20 miles and they did it at next speed, and you're looking at it going, I can't achieve that.
Or like, oh, I'm signed up for the same race as them. I only
I'm
did
not faster, or
X,
I did less.
and I'm taking this. Yeah.
So it's a downside to that site specifically.
And that's obviously just me and my personal experience. I think people can have a complete healthy relationship with it, and it's just Strava, and they pay no attention to what everybody else is doing or what their own numbers are doing. But for me, that's just kind of.
I've had to change my relationship with it. I had to kind of upload in groups, like clumps, and edit the titles and then step away. Sometimes there's comments that I'll like catch on to. There was a time when people called me out on that thing that Cinto was doing, where every time you'd upload with a Cinto watch, it was advertising on all your runs like, hey, this is a Cinto watch. Click here to buy one. And that was not, like, I did not approve of that. People were like, are you sponsored by Cinto? And isn't that against your brand? I didn't know. And I went over to Strava, and sure enough, they were advertising Cinto watches on my posts. I got pissed, and I called it out. And people commented. There's a long comment thread on there, and people were still like really upset that Strava would do that, and then Cinto would do that. And they're like, why don't you just opt out? And all these things. And that was the closest I've gotten to get really engaged on that platform in a long time. Yeah. So I gotta choose your battles. And that battle is not worth choosing. I step away too. I upload, but I tend not to engage too much.
Yeah.
Because the second you start scrolling, it's just like jealousy. Why am I not running that fast? Why
Or
am I
even
not
in
running that
comparison
far?
to yourself. So I don't put titles in anymore
Mm,
because part of my problem before was going like making excuses up for myself for my performance, like easy recovery on like
right,
hard trails or something. If
right.
I felt like, oh, my effort seems like it wasn't great, I need to emphasize it was just an easy run so people don't think like, why is she dragging herself around the trails? So,
Mm-hmm.
so I've stepped away from doing the titles and like all that kind of stuff. I put it there and it's there.
Yeah.
So
Last question from Nathaniel. Another great question. This guy's good at question asking. Question for Ethan and Kim. 250 episodes in, what GR Live episode stands out to you the most and why? We talked about this over at Orcus Camp. I
yeah.
have my episode. Is it the same? Or do you have a different one?
Well, I
I
don't.
think there's a handful that for sure stand out.
There is a handful that stand out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you're gonna say.
On the count of three. So do you remember the episode number?
Yeah,
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 200.
200.
Yeah. And Trayson, episode 200.
Yeah.
I think the reason is because it was so opposite of every other experience that we've had going live with the show. So a lot of the times, him and I start preparing for this, like in this desk with this gear, 15 minutes before, right? So we fire everything up. We kind of get everything ready. We bring in our guests to make sure their tech is set up. A lot of the times we'll do that earlier, depending on if they're new to the tech, anything like that, like Skype and stuff. With Ann Trayson, it was she confirmed weeks in advance because we had Ken Michael on the show, who was coached by Ann Trayson. He might still be, I actually don't know, but we had him on the show a couple weeks prior. He got us in touch with Ann Trayson to be on the show, and she was like, "Sure, yeah, I'll be on the show, no problem." And then, like the week of, I was like, in my mind, I'm going, I got to confirm because I feel like Ann Trayson's going to say yes and just be like, I don't care about this show. I don't want to do it.
Not
And
because she's not a nice person.
no, but just because she's probably really busy.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be like this tiny little podcast that just kind of goes by the wayside. So I confirmed with her and she's like, yeah, no, I'm still doing it. But I need you to send me a list of all the questions before the show. I only answer questions that I know of in advance. I was like, oh, that's the first time someone's ever asked for that, but it's Ann Trayson. You betcha. I wrote up a whole list of questions and conversation points and things that we could sort of weave into it. Sent it to her. She's like, this is great. Thank you. And then the day of, normally what we do is we do like a tech check and all this stuff. And she's like, I'll do a tech check 10 minutes before. And nothing worked. She was full on like, my dog just got sprayed by a skunk. I poured myself a bottle or a glass of like bourbon or something. So she was drinking, like she just started like sipping on it because she's like, I just couldn't deal with the stress of the day. You still want to do the show? And it's like, yes. She's like, well, I can't get Skype to work.
She wasn't rude.
No,
I
I don't want to portray her as being rude.
She wasn't rude. She was just very matter of fact. Like, this is what's happening right now.
My dog got sprayed by a skunk. I'm enjoying a beverage. I can't get Skype to work. What do you want to do? I was like, can we phone you in? Like, can we just bring you in on speakerphone and we'll do the show that way? She's like, I mean, sure, if we get it to work, you know. We brought her in that way. And this whole time I'm thinking like, do not go off script. Stick to these questions. Like, she's an amazing guest and she obviously has like, I don't want to make her day worse by asking dumb questions or making her angry or anything like that or going off script. So I was very cautious and worried and nervous. I had like 200th episode too.
Yeah.
It turned out to be one of the most pleasurable interviews ever because one, she's got, I can't imagine the number of stories that she had, right? That we're not even like tapping into and stuff that she wouldn't want to talk about because it's with her past and stuff. She was so forthcoming and narrative and funny. We could just kind of sit back and listen. And it was a really cool, interesting episode. I only wish that I was able to crank her volume louder. I feel like her volume was really quiet for a lot of that show. But overall, by far, one of the most memorable shows because of the chaos that ensued beforehand, the chaos with the tech, and then the ability to just like relax during the actual interview. It was a very strange experience, but beautiful in the same way because she was so kind and giving during that interview. It took about 10 minutes to sort of get comfortable.
Right.
I
Warm
think
up to us.
so, yeah, for her to warm up to us. She didn't know who we were. Once you can kind of hear it in the interview, you'll get to this point where you're like, oh yeah, she's having fun now. And that's when we started to really have fun. So that episode for me, one of the most memorable.
Yeah, same for all those same reasons. Also, the interview that I was most nervous about, I think, was with Anne as well. Like,
Mhm.
I was like a little bit like, this goes well. And that was also one of those shows where my mom like texts me immediately after saying, I love this lady. This is one of my favorite shows. And I'm like, yep, that it's a good show. And mom gives the approval text. I also really like couple of shows that we've done live in locations have been really fun.
Mm.
I also really just love Gin. I don't know if those really count as GR lives.
I think it's just the excuse to drink a lot with Gary.
It also feels like a big celebration of the community, and like we can kind of let loose and kind of have a good.
Yeah. But I mean, 250 episodes is it's pretty amazing. Like I've been thinking a lot about this in my own mind over the last month. I've never done anything this long. Like I've never, like job wise, I've never done anything for more than maybe 3 years. Like maybe 4 years, because I forget my first like job out of college was kind of a career where I worked my way up through that, and I think that might have been like about 4 years or something. That was by the end of that 4th year, I was like, I got to get out of here, and I moved to Los Angeles and that sort of thing. This by far is the longest I've ever worked doing something, and I feel like I'm just getting started, right? So with Ginger Runner Live at 250 episodes, in my mind I'm going, that is a lot of work. That is a lot of Mondays. That's a lot of sacrifice. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's really cool to be able to say that we have a library of episodes. Gus, you got it out, bud? I think he just coughed up all the hair that we shaved off of him. 250 hours, essentially, more than that. But yeah. Let's say 250 plus hours of content is amazing. It's pretty damn cool. So this is a testament to everyone there, you, live viewers, and people who have supported us, helping us make sure that this is something that we love doing, by being a member of this community. Everyone, Gus is joining us. Hi, Gus. Hi, bud. You have anything to say? Oh, he just headbutts the mic, as one would do. Hi, buddy.
John in the chat room says, Ethan, your performance on the Ann Trason show was spectacular.
My performance? Well, I appreciate that. I would think Ann Trason's was. Someone said that they love that episode and they love her because she is so real, and that's the best way to describe it. She is no filter, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's just what you get is Ann Trason. It's pure. And I think that's what's really great about it. There's no front. There's just, she doesn't care about putting up a front. There's none of that. Ann Trason is Ann Trason is Ann Trason. And that's what we got on the show. And I think maybe that's what we are really like drawn to in that interview, was just how pure it was. Oh my God. Gus is also being quite pure. Hi, bud. Oh gosh. Thank you everyone for the continued support. Wonderful night. Wonderful episode. Really had a great time, and thank you for those who have shared their stories. We were happy to share them with our viewers, and make sure everyone shouts out Chris too, because he's a member of this crew, and I believe on Facebook he's definitely more active on Facebook and stuff. But definitely thank him for sharing his story, because it was beyond touching, and for him to be so open is a wonderful thing. Thank you everybody. Get out there, train hard, race harder, party hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week. Him. Anything?
That's all.
That's all. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.